Today, we are joined by Neil Huffman, and he'll be speaking at Agile Development Conference and Better Software Conference East 2014, and his session is titled Making Agile Work with 11 Product Owners. To start things off, first, let me thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yep. And then can you start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your role at Apex Capital Corporation?
Sure, absolutely. So I've been in the software space for probably over 30 years, literally. The first 10 or 15 was in a development role. The last 15 plus has been more in the product management, software development, kind of management arena. And in the last 10 years, the first 20 years I spent in telecom and digital branch exchanges, central office development, digital loop carriers, fiber to the home. And the last 10 years I've spent focused on the enterprise software space, more in the utility billing, the integrated courts and justice arena where they tie in all of the different sheriff's, jails, and courts activities. And then the last year and a half I've been at Apex Capital, focused on it's a financial services company, and we're focused on the transportation industry. But my role is really all about the software, the development, and the delivery of solutions.
All right, fantastic. Now, what led to the idea of your session?
Well, so the last 8 or so years, I've been helping the organizations I've been at transition to Agile. And the Agile model is really built around having a product owner work with a Scrum or a Scrum team that builds a backlog of solutions and prioritizes them accordingly. Well, at Apex, we have more than 10 product owners. And the way this company is built, we internally build our own software to run the business. And there's about 11 different user communities within the company that use the software. So every user community has their own needs and priorities. And so basically when I got here, they weren't agile and they were struggling with getting software out in a consistent manner. The user communities were frustrated. The software development team was frustrated. And so what we did was we went through formal product owner training with all of the organization from representatives from each user community. So we had 11 communities, and I'll kind of go down the list: sales, underwriting, marketing, integrated services, legal, accounting, account executives, credit. And so we pulled in 1 or 2 users from each community. And this organization is about 200 employees, so it's small. But even still, each of these groups had a valid component of software that they used to run a business. And this business is growing significantly. And so we trained them for 2 days. They got their formal product owner certification. And then they said, well, where's my Scrum team? And I said, well, we're going to share. I have one development team of about 10, and we're going to split those guys up, and we're going to support all of these user communities. And so that's what I've been doing at Apex Capital, is helping them formally move into the Agile world and also bring in multiple product owners in a way that works. And so that's really over the last year and a half. That's what we've done. We have 2-week sprints, and I'll share more later, but we've made it work with multiple product owners. It's different than traditional or somewhat traditional Agile. And so I was pretty excited about it. I've seen it work in a great way at a small organization, and I wanted to share that.
All right, fantastic. And as you kind of said, your presentation is about the transition to Agile as a company grows. And so my next question is obviously if a company is doing something right and they're experiencing growth, why should they be interested in transitioning to Agile?
Well, so great question. And really what it goes back to is, as I alluded to it earlier, the reason I was brought in, honestly, was because the organization was growing, but they were not able to keep up with the demands of the software to run their business. And so the frustration was they couldn't prioritize things, they couldn't get things out consistently, the user groups were frustrated, and there was just a general lack of cohesiveness from the software IT arena to deliver software. And so that's really what was really the impetus to say, what can we do different? And really, my background for the last 10 years has been helping teams transition to Agile in a way that works. And so that's really why I was brought in, to help them kind of formalize, streamline, prioritize, and then deliver software consistently that works.
Okay. Now, beyond giving anecdotal evidence, you also share with attendees how to avoid heavy layers of tracking and reporting that can weigh down fast-growing companies. Why is this important, and how can tracking and reporting be a hindrance to some fast-growing companies?
Well, so for sure, more traditionally, software companies, at least in the waterfall model, they had a lot of documentation and they had a lot of design up front and wait till we know everything before we build. And Agile's really kind of broken that off from a way to build software. And really, what I want to, I want to make sure that the audience knows that you still need to measure, you still need to manage, you still need to have metrics, but you can do it in a way that's really lightweight in a sense. So whereas before this group had no reporting, now we actually are using a lot of our tools to do the reporting for us. So I've become a fan of Atlassian. They have a great tool suite, Jira, Maven, Bamboo, Confluence. And it really is a suite of tools that helps you not only manage your design activities and your stories and your tasks, but it also helps you with the reporting on the back end. So you can see trends. Obviously, you can get your velocity on a sprint, and it really helps you take away some of that burdensome management layer because it's built into your workflow process. So it's not something you do after the fact or extra, but it really comes out as a result of how you do your business. So my comment would be, you still need reporting. A lot of the developers don't necessarily like that, but you do it in a way that's supportive. So you can see what you need to do in the future, how you need to support, grow your support team, et cetera. So I guess the bottom line is you do need reporting. You need to make it lightweight, and you need to do it in a way that's constructive and supportive of what your goals are as a business.
Okay. Now, what peaks and valleys should companies expect when they are making the leap to Agile?
So what we've been challenged with, obviously, is just getting the discipline of being agile, right? And there is a discipline involved in it. And one of the bigger things we've struggled with is really getting the acceptance criteria defined in a story. So our product owners were new to Agile a year and a half ago, and they're getting better at it. But what we found is we'll go in and estimate a story. We'll say, hey, it's 4 points. And then when we start building it and we do our daily interaction with the product owner will go, oh, well, no, I need it to do this, and I need that button to do this. And we're going, well, that's not in the story. And so all of a sudden, one of the challenges, has been to really get that discipline of defining what the user wants in the software in a clearly defined manner that allows the developer to build it. So that, again, when you're done, the user goes, oh yeah, that's beautiful, man. And we can say it's done, done, done. For a year, we struggled to get that done, done, done concept in our software. And so the discipline that's one discipline was the user stories on the Agile, or the acceptance criteria on the user stories. And then the other area that we've probably struggled a little bit with is the technical debt. So we'll build something, in a sprint, we'll release it, and then there's after effects, right? The user comes back and goes, well, hey, this basically works, or this doesn't work. And so some of it is maybe, again, to some degree, maybe a user story issue, but it's that discipline of really kind of breaking things down into small enough tasks and clearly defining them so that technical debt doesn't get built up. Because what happens is we'll release a bunch of points, and all of a sudden, for the next sprint or two, we're fixing things, right? So there's that part of it that's kind of been of a learning curve, a peak in the valley for us, that really we've had to make changes to try and figure out how to do better.
Okay. And so you kind of talked about that discipline and really having to alter your state of mind when it comes to transitioning to Agile. So how does a company know they've become Agile, especially if they were already experiencing some levels of success before? Is it something that they just kind of wake up like, hey, we're Agile, or is it more of a, steady transition?
Well, that's a great question, obviously. And so what's interesting to me and from what I've seen is when people in the hallway are talking about sprints, and people that aren't really in the development team are going, well, hey, I've got this thing I need done, and I can put it in a sprint and plan it down the road. We're going, wow, man, that's how Agile works, right? You have an item, you put it on your backlog, and you plan it into a sprint. And so that really, I've started listening, and even up to our owners. I mean, we have two owners of this company, and they're talking sprints and backlogs and priorities, and I'm going, wow, man, you're agile.
There you go. All right. Now you have a wealth of information and a lot of information that hits really close to home for a lot of the attendees. So what takeaways would you like attendees to leave with after your presentation's over?
Well, so my, in my opinion, right? So I've got a lot of gray hair. There is no silver bullet, right? It really still comes down to good people working together to collaborate, to define stories and sprints, and working through the iterations, and really going through that planning process to get something built that's what the client wants. So I've got, again, my clients are internal, but we have external clients that use our software. So at the end of the day, there's a user community out there that is really important to work closely with, and Agile for sure in a web type arena will work really well to helping companies deliver solutions.
Okay. Now, to get to some more questions about you, you have more than 25 years building innovative solutions in the software arena. Software and the industry has changed dramatically since you first started out. Is there something you wish you knew when you first started out that you now know?
That's another good question, right? I mean, so when I started out, literally, it was pure waterfall. And I mean, we literally would go down through and write test plans on software that hadn't even been written yet, right? So what we found ourselves doing was constantly updating those documents, and they were paper documents at the time. And so I think I think we were working ourselves towards Agile all those years and didn't know it, and really, and to some degree, Agile allows us to continuously learn and peel the onion on what really needs to be built as a solution. And it allows you to react quicker. It allows you to do things in a manner that the user can see them quicker, or the client or the customer, whoever you're building the software for. So I guess, for me, it's been fun to be able to stay in the business a long enough time to see that evolution to where we can actually build stuff that can be done in a very, very quick manner. The software tools out there today lend themselves to an agile type development paradigm. So for me, it's definitely in a much better state than it was 20 plus years ago.
So to wrap things up, is there anything you'd like to say to the delegates of Agile Development Conference before they attend your session?
Yeah, I would like to encourage each of them to really bring their real world experiences to the table. I attended a conference last November in Boston, and sitting at the table during lunch for a couple of days during the week was the best time to talk about real world activities around Agile and how to make it work. And that's really where I was able to share my experiences with other attendees, and it was very engaging. So I would encourage folks to, if they haven't tried Agile, to seriously consider it. But if they have and they've struggled or stumbled, to really bring those stumblings to the conference, and let's figure out a way to kind of work through them. And the conference is a great place to do that. I really had a great time last year, learned a lot, shared a lot with my team. And so that's really my encouragement to the attendees.
All right. Well, thank you. And once again, this wraps up our interview with Neil Huffman of Apex Capital Corporation, and he's given a presentation at Agile Development Conference and Better Software Conference East 2014. Make sure to check out his presentation titled Making Agile Work with 11 Product Owners. Thank you so much, Neil.
Hey, Cameron, thanks a lot.